Probate is determining what happens to you and your estate. Probate includes guardianship for someone who no longer can take care of themselves. It includes the probate of wills to pass on the property to the beneficiaries and that type of thing. Most of the time it's helping them organize their thoughts and finding out how to deal with their property when it's no longer their property. One piece of advice that I always give is to do a list of assets. One sheet of paper that has all the accounts, the URLs, the username, the passwords, the contact person, the amount that was in there when they did that sheet, and have it in one place along with the will so that their executor knows who to contact and how to gather the property together. Another is, not everything needs to go through probate. A lot of times, if you have almost all of your entire estate in brokerage accounts or retirement plans, do the beneficiary statements. Those companies are going to pay the beneficiary, and they are legally correct to do so. That also means you got to make sure your beneficiary statements are up to date. I had one woman come in to me to handle her husband's estate. He had no will, but he had brokerage accounts. He was divorced. He never changed the beneficiary. One bank sent a check to his ex-wife, and it took a lot to get it back. The first thing they need to do is get legal advice. Call the attorney, find the will, find that paper that has all the assets. Call Social Security, let Social Security know that person has passed. Social Security can be a real pain getting money back that they paid out. So it's better to let them know right up front so they're better to work with. Make sure that you notify all assets about the passing. That means brokerage accounts, bank accounts, retirement plans, the former employers, all the people that have control of the assets that are going to pass to the beneficiaries. They need to understand if all of it is going to the spouse or if that spouse is going to be having to share it. In our day and time, we usually have 2 or 3 marriages in a lifetime, and there's often children from former marriages who are entitled to some of that inheritance. You need to make arrangements to protect the assets so that there's no claims that you're doing something wrong. The most important thing is to have the estate planned. Have the wills, the powers of attorney, a directive to physicians, a HIPAA release. There is a small percentage of people that need to have a trust. More people think they need a trust than really do, so you should get advice on that. Sometimes you need a testamentary trust, one that you don't do while you're alive, but you simply put it in the will. And that's usually all you really need for those people who do need a trust. But they need legal advice on what is the best way to handle their estate. They need to list all of their assets in one place. Put that in a place where the executor can find it. Stay away from bank boxes. When you put your will in a safe deposit box and the bank finds out you've passed, they freeze it. Even the spouse cannot get in. We have to go downtown to the probate courts and have them issue an order to the bank to open the drawer of the bank box. Banks are very leery of litigation, and the last thing they want is to subject themselves by letting someone who's not supposed to be in there take something out of the bank box. My advice is to put your wills, your important documents, in a 5-hour safe on the 2nd floor, because very few houses will take more than 5 hours to burn to the ground. 2nd floor because hurricanes, floods destroy everything on the 1st ground. I had a woman come to me. Her husband was meticulous about the wills and everything else, and they had a monstrous safe on the first floor. And this was after Harvey. He died before Harvey. The will was in the safe. Her house was underwater on the first floor for 2 weeks. Everything in the safe was mush. So it didn't matter they had the will in there. You couldn't do anything with it. And you can't laminate your wills. It's no longer legal.
How do you waterproof stuff?
You don't.
Legal things.
You put it on the second floor.
Or an attic. What if you live in a one-story?
Whatever. Attic will work. It benefits the person who wants to decide how their estate is executed, and it benefits the beneficiary or beneficiaries, because if you don't have a will, then you have to go through full probate. You have to do an application to determine heirs. You have to do an application to administer the estate. And with those two, you have to have an ad litem. Guess what? That's another attorney that you have to pay to go out and research to make sure that little Johnny is the only child this man has ever had, even if this man is 21 years old and little Johnny is 6 years old, and there was no way possible he could have fathered another child. The law requires you to pay another attorney to go out and find that out. It takes a lot longer. When you have a will, you have options. You can go through full probate, or you can do it as what's called a muniment of title, where all you're doing is you're putting the will in and 3 weeks later you're done. But it's proof of your ownership of whatever is left to you. You don't even have to do the will. You might decide, well, the only thing in the will is a homestead, so you're going to do an affidavit of heirship, file it with the property records, and you don't even have to open probate. But without a will, you're stuck. The most common misconception about probate law is, well, I need a trust. The problem there is oftentimes it's a sexy instrument that people think, I got a trust, when very few people really need a trust. There are specific reasons for a trust. The misconceptions other than trust are, what can I make them do with the money once I give it to them? And there's a short answer to that. Nothing. If you give them the money, it's their money, they're going to do whatever they want. There's other questions that are more sensible. I can't stand my daughter-in-law. She's a gold digger. I don't want my daughter-in-law to have any piece of this, so how can I make sure it goes to my son and their children without her getting it? Well, there's ways around that. If you've got somebody in the family that is questionable, you can do that. That's a little tricky sometimes, but it's doable. Most of the time, people have a broad understanding of what they want to do, but they need that extra advice about how to make sure that what they want is realized.
So Larry, how do you help people prepare for the end of their life legally?
Well, since you've eliminated assisted suicide, that's not legal. You want me to start over?
Yes.
The question helped them
Yeah,
prepare.
but she said, how do you prepare for the end of the life legally? Dr. Kevorkian helped them
Okay,
prepare
what
quite a bit,
invention is
but it was illegal.